I got you on a whisper. You've been a smooch on a cheek, but I can't give you no hug. My shirt gonna be riddled with makeup. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? You are now watching Jew Boy Sports Show. I'm your host, Kyng Ralph. Battling the weather a little bit, so I apologize if I got to clear my throat, cough a couple times or whatnot. But we in this thing. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button while you're here. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Like, comment, share, all that good stuff. But before we get started, like we always do, we want to do a photo shoot, podcast like what you're watching, music video, call the number on the screen, bottom on the bottom of the screen, 707, Fit Boxer. As well as if you're looking for a clean, no crash, genderless energy drink, get on that phone, iPad, laptop, look up w.com, dubby.com. They also have an app. Use promo code JUKJUKE for 20% off. We're going to get you right. And as well as make sure, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, all of that. If you're here on YouTube, subscribe. If you're here on Facebook, follow. If you're on the He Say, She Say channel page, go over to Juke Network, JUK Network, and follow us there. Once I get to 100 followers, I'll be able to go live straight from there. If you're on Twitch, follow as well. Help me become a Twitch affiliate. Help your boy out. Help your boy out. But let's get straight into it, man. We had an abysmal NBA All-Star Weekend. Let me sip my tea while I'm not minding my business. But we had an abysmal All-Star Weekend. And how would I rate it? I'm gonna give them a little bit of credit. I'm not gonna go F or whatnot. I'll probably go C. I like the effort that they trying to do certain things to be able to make it a little bit more entertaining, give more effort from the players. In the end, it did technically work, but I think the execution of in which it happened was the part that made it. That's where they dropped the ball. I feel like when you had the OGs playing the Rising Stars team, I feel like the OGs played hard because they didn't want to get shown out and get beat by a Rising Stars team. Pretty much, they shouldn't have been there in the first place. They're not all-stars. So I do think in the end, getting them to play hard, you were able to do that. Now, when they take that break, the other game is happening, and then they come back. Now that's when you get a certain amount of effort, or because I've ultimately got a chance to cool down, to have to stretch back out, to get back out there again. I feel like the All-Star or the dunk contest, it sucks to see where it's gone and how far it's came in a negative way. Shout out to Matt McClung. I'm not putting this on him at all. I feel like none of the players that were in the contest, I don't feel like they did anything wrong. I feel like it was entertaining, but I feel like at the end of the day, until we can get some kind of star or somebody with a name, a noticeable name, even Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine weren't stars, but they were good enough players to where you identified and you watched them. Zach LaVine from high school all the way to where he was at the dunk contest, Aaron Gordon and the dunker that he was, the creativity, even going as far back as like Sean Kemp and D Brown, those were noticeable names. Michael Jordan and Dominique Wilkins, noticeable names. The star-studded last time it was in San Francisco or the Oakland area when the Golden State Warriors hosted it in 2000. Vince Carter, Steve Francis, I believe. I'm trying to remember who was the fourth person. I want to say it was Baron Davis. I could be wrong, though. But T-Mac, Steve Francis, and Vince Carter shut it down. And then, so those are noticeable names that were in the dunk contest. I feel like the fourth team is if you're going to keep this, at least make the fourth team being like an all snub team. I've seen that one tossed around a few times. I feel like when you put the Rising Stars in it, unless you have a team of, let's just say, for instance, right now, unless you got Wemby, Chet, Stephen Castle, maybe Bronny, like unless you have noticeable names that are on that team in that game, Zach Edey is another name. Unless you have those noticeable names that are in that game, it really doesn't really hold the same weight when you put them on that main stage. I think that something has to be done before we just go ahead and get rid of it. I do think that, and I'm gonna get into it a little later, talking about Draymond. Um, I don't think that the Rising Stars team should have been there. I did was kind of curious to see the effort. I think them being there gave the effort in which, or got the effort in which I thought that they would get on that game and on that stage. But in the end, I do think that they got to figure something out when it comes to these other the other team. I think that getting the all snub team, a team that could have consisted of Kyrie Irving, Trey Young, Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox. I feel like these are all players that could have possibly been on the team to where it would have been competitive, or at least you got major players on a major stage to where it probably could have been a little bit more competitive. People care a little bit more. They're playing with a little bit more chip on their shoulder. But ultimately, I think they need to go back to East West. I like the idea that the Major League Baseball did, where there's a National League, there's an American League, East West in their realms, and whoever wins gets the, what do you call it, home court or home court advantage in the finals. And I feel like that is something that you can play for, something that means something in the end, and as well as maybe put it where you give it where it's a couple $1 million for the winner, couple 100,000 where it's a major drop off from a winner to the loser. And I think that that's a way that in order for us to get it back to being competitive where the players actually care. And I hate the idea that players don't want to get hurt, because how many players have played in the All Star game that got hurt? I I feel like worrying about the most small, minute thing, a possibility of something, is one of those things that I just don't quite understand. And so now going post All Star break, who are some of the most exciting teams? And to start off on the East, I'm gonna go with the Cavs. I think the addition of DeAndre Hunter, they already had the best record in the league, 44-10, going into the All Star break. The addition of Hunter, getting him acclimated and seeing how well they can finish this year. Now you got Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, DeAndre Hunter, Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland as one of the best starting fives that you can put together in the league, and be able to go toe to toe with Boston and see what if Boston can come out in the end. I think the New York Knicks is another team that you want to be able to go through and see, is are they going to wear out, or are they going to prevail? I think in the end, when you got Cat, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, OG Ananobi, I feel like they have enough talent. It's just whether or not, because the thing with Tibbs is always going to play people a lot of minutes, a lot of games, and they don't really do a whole lot of load management over there. So, in the end, do they really have an opportunity? They have a real opportunity right now. Do they have enough depth to be able to do it in the end? And I think that that makes for them an exciting team. They're third in the West. I mean, third in the East right now. Um, Going into the All Star break, the Celtics are in the second. So, Cavs, Celtics, Knicks are all exciting teams, and I got them in the top in the top of the East, finishing in the East. I would be surprised if two of those three teams don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. To go in another direction on the other side, though, I got on the West, I got the Clippers. I think they're an exciting team because right now they're sixth in the West. They add Bogdan from Atlanta. They add Ben Simmons after signing him after he had a buyout with the Brooklyn Nets. Had a really good game off the bench. Both of those players are now going to come off the bench. Now we'll see what happens, because right now Chris Dunn is in the starting lineup. So when you got a James Harden, Norman Powell, Chris Dunn, um, Zubac, and I'm trying to think of who that fourth person is that's starting right now. But given those four names, and then Ben Simmons and Bogdan, how you rotate and what you play. Although it was the Utah Jazz, but 12 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists off the bench for Ben Simmons, and he looked a little bit more aggressive. He looked like he was playing well. Being able to run the point with that second unit and then kind of be a playmaker big. I think, and I've always said this since he left the Sixers when he went to the Nets originally when they still had KD and Kyrie. If you can get him to play kind of like a Draymond, where he'll shoot the three when it needs to when he needs it, but playing defense, being a playmaker, being aggressive going to the rim when you get those mismatches, being able to grab the rebound and start the break is really all you really need from Ben Simmons. You don't need him to come in and be this 30-point scorer with 10 assists. You just need a good 18 to 20 points, possibly every night, with 10 assists and 7 to 8 rebounds. And make it difficult for the other team. Now he's had some back issues over the years, so he might have been. It does look like he lost a step from an athleticism standpoint, but IQ and just being a mobile big is gonna go can take them far. Now when it comes to Bogdan can go off of 30 on any given night. Hell of a shooter, playmaker, catch and shoot, being able to play alongside with a Norman Powell, a Ben Simmons, and James Harden. I think are makes the team scary in the end. Now whether or not they can be able to get it done because they still Kawhi. I don't know how the hell I didn't remember Kawhi was there, but Kawhi, James, Norman Powell, Zubac, and Chris Dunn. When you got that, and you add Ben Simmons and Bogdan. Now at that point, what do you do? What do you really? Where do you really go? If you add Ben Simmons to the starting lineup or have him as a finishing person as a five, and you add Bogdan to that, you have so much offensive firepower that Ben Simmons' inability to shoot doesn't really come into play here because he can set screens. He's still a big body mobile guy that can go coast to coast off the rebound. And so I like them a lot going forward, seeing what they do next. And next up, I think one of the most exciting ones because of how they finished the break. Now give it they lost to the Grizzlies. I mean, they lost to the Mavericks with no Anthony Davis. But the Warriors, 3-1 since getting Jimmy. Jimmy adds a tenacity on the defensive side and a veteran presence when it really needs to get done in big games and big moments. Being able to thrive in an area that doesn't disrupt what's going on with Steph. Steph is averaging a little bit more. Jimmy is averaging a little bit more. Being able to match that grit with Draymond, being able to play in that mid-post, mid-range area, but still being able to hit the three when need be, I think that it's going to pay dividends because when you have Steph, it's kind of like when KD was there, but in a different way. When you have Steph and you got to double team and keep eyes on Steph when Steph is moving without the ball, it's going to give Jimmy Butler one-on-one situations. And we've seen that he's more than capable of getting hot and taking his team to a finals appearance. So given what they got now and where they are 10th in the West right now. So they got some ground to make up. But 28 and 27 record, 10th in the West, 3-1 finishing up the break since adding Jimmy. Now you got Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond, where defensively they're going to be strong and going to be a problem for a lot of teams. But offensively, Jimmy can go off for 30, Steph can go off for 30, and both of them can very well go off for 40 on a good-ass night, which makes it scary in the end. And so I got the NFL Combine coming up next weekend. So by the time that I do another pod, I'm really only going to be able to go over a few things. So on this episode, I'm going to go over offensive people to look out for, as well as defensive people to look out for on Friday. Before we start off, since we started off, let's start off with quarterbacks. Let me take a sip of my tea first. If you're here, follow that hit that follow button if you can. If you will, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. But let's get into it, man. So obviously you got the big two, maybe even big three. But Shador Sanders, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, and then let's get into the rest of the list. So we got Jalen Milroe from Alabama, Jackson Dart coming out of Ole Miss, Kyle McCord is out of Syracuse, Quinn Ewers out of Texas. That was the one. That was the name I was really looking for because of how Arch Manning played when he was hurt. I really wanted to see Arch Manning get an opportunity as the full-time starter going into next year. My guy out of Ohio State, Will Howard, Dylan Gabriel, a Heisman finalist, as well as Curtis Rourke out of Indiana. He's more of a prototypical, like the 90s, 2000s in the pocket guy, where pretty much everybody else is a mobile quarterback to some degree. And I think that the quarterback position it's I feel like the top three are far and above the rest of them. I think what Jackson Dart did at the Senior Bowl put himself in that realm, not in the same realm with Cam Warner Shador, because obviously they're top five picks. But after that, I could see Jackson Dart being someone that was picked in the middle of the first round, if not late in the second round, or late in the first round, early second round. But I think everybody else, Jalen Milroe, I keep seeing being in that same category. But from what I watched before I actually get into the tape, I haven't necessarily got a big chance to watch a lot of film on a lot of players. So this is just based off of what I've seen throughout the season. But I just don't see Jalen Milroe. I wouldn't draft him nothing earlier than the third round, me personally, unless you just absolutely needed a quarterback. Because after him, I do feel like it's a big drop off. At the running back position, at the top of that list, Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State, the Heisman finalist, lost in a very close matchup with Travis Hunter. Cam Scatterbo, very underrated out of Arizona State, but if you know ball, you know how good he is. My guy, Travion Henderson out of Ohio State, the two-headed monster that it was this year. He didn't go to Ohio State the whole time. He transferred. I believe he transferred from Georgia. I got to look it up. But Kenshawn Judkins out of Ohio State, Amarion Hampton out of North Carolina, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, Ollie Gordon II out of Oklahoma State, Corey Kiner out of Cincinnati, Kalel Mullins out of Michigan, and Donovan Edwards out of Michigan. The Michigan boys are the ones that I'm kind of curious where they'll end up going. As a person that watched them play over the last couple of years as an Ohio State fan, I feel like they're both really good in their own right. One is a little bit more of a bruiser, where the other one is more of an all around back. Where Kenshawn and Travion Henderson, that one is a real toss up. I had a homie of mine ask me who would I take. From what I've seen, just because I've got a chance to watch him a little bit more, Travion Henderson, I feel like, is an every down back. Where Judkins, I got to watch a little bit more film before I'm sold on him being an every down back. Ashton Jeanty, Cam Scatterbo, Henderson, Judkins, and the two boys out of Michigan are the ones that I really would like to watch. I can't wait to see them at the combine. JT, I don't necessarily think he should. Now, these are all people that were invited. Um, Now we'll see whether or not they work out or whatnot. But as a JT, I think he did exactly everything that you could ask of a running back. So I wouldn't necessarily work out. Maybe I would interview, do a little bit of do like a physical, and then I'm up out of there. I'm not running no 40. I'm not running no routes. I'm not really doing much. I'm not lifting no weights. I've already done the tape is what it is. The tape is what it is. It's kind of like the same thing with like Cam Ward and Shador. I don't necessarily expect them to throw at the combine. I feel like they've separated themselves that if you need a quarterback, these are the two to take. as well as if you need a running back, Ashton Jeanty is your guy. I feel like everybody else, to a certain degree, given the bowl game that Cam Scatterbo had, I wouldn't be surprised if he did something similar, but I just don't think that. I feel like they've done so much that they don't necessarily need to be able to. They don't got to go hard at the combine. And so the wide receiver position, been hearing from what I hear, I don't hear that this is a very deep draft at the wide receiver spot, but I am kind of curious to get into the tape. This is one of my favorite times of the year once I start watching film. So these are all just people that you should watch. Once I get after the combine, I get everybody's measurables. I get through the tape, then I can really give an idea, a solid idea. I'll do a position rankings. So this right here, they're not position rankings. It's just people to watch out for at the combine. So at the wide receiver position, I got Tedero McMillan out of Arizona, big body receiver. Luther Burden III out of Missouri. Emeka Ibuke out of Ohio State. Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. Jalen Royals out of Utah State. Isaiah Bond out of Texas. Running mate Matthew Golden out of Texas. Torrey Holton out of Colorado State. My guy out here, Ricky White II out of UNLV. Nick Nash out of San Jose State. He went crazy this year. Had some hell of a stats this year. And then the other guy on the other side from Travis Hunter is Jimmy Horn Jr. And if you notice, I did not say Travis Hunter because it just came out over this weekend that he will be at the combine as a cornerback, not necessarily a wide receiver. Whether or not that ends up happening, from what I've heard, he is not going to work out as a wide receiver. He's going to work out as a cornerback. And so some people I'm actually like outside of like the Ibuka, I feel like him at the end of the day and McMillan are my two favorites. If I was to need a wide receiver, it just depends on what you need. Between the two, McMillan has like that Mike Evans in him, big 6'5", 212, big body, deep threat, can get the jump ball. Now, can he get separation and all of that? Or those are all going to be questions going into him being a prospect, watching film and all of that. But I feel like Ibuka is one of those people he's solid enough to where he can fight through and be a middle of the field guy, slot guy, really can play really anywhere on the field. I feel like he's the most all-around wide receiver that is in this draft. But I just feel like the size of McMillan is hard to pass up when someone is 6'5", 212, where he could easily get up to 220, 230 once he's a grown-ass man in the league pretty much. Ricky White is someone out of UNLV. I'm a big fan of him, given the offense and the way that the team was run and constructed over the last couple of years. Quarterback or no quarterback, he's been balling out the last 2-3 seasons. And so I'm curious to see where he goes and how he works out. Nick Nash won the Triple Crown with touchdown receiving yards and receptions this year. Was very upset that he didn't get an opportunity to get into the Heisman conversation. So I feel like he's going to have a chip on his shoulder or something to prove. And we pay so much attention to Travis Hunter that I'm curious about Jimmy Horn Jr. and how it's going to end up working out for him. And so to run through some stuff, I'm just going to run through everybody's names and get up out of here because I got a couple more fast break topics I got to get off. So the tight end position, Tyler Warren out of Penn State, Colson Loveland out of Michigan. Honestly, I feel like those two are far above the best two tight ends. And then after that, it's more so about potential or how they fit into an offense. Elijah Arroyo out of Miami, Gunnar Helm out of Texas, Mason Taylor out of LSU, Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green, Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, Aronde Gadsden II out of Syracuse, Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame, and Luke Lackey out of Iowa. The last two and the first two, I feel like the most comfortable taking those people because I just feel like every year Iowa is going to give you somebody, Notre Dame is going to give you a tight end, Iowa is going to give you a tight end, but the first two are they're far and above the best two tight ends in this class. As offensive tackle, I got Will Campbell out of LSU, Armin Mimbu out of Missouri, Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, Josh Connolly out of Oregon, Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State, Cameron Williams out of Texas, Jonah Savine out of Arizona. I feel like Kelvin Banks, Josh Simmons, although he's coming off of injury, and Will Campbell are the top three in this going into the combine. I'm curious to see how people work out. Josh Simmons is one. I'm not sure if he'll work out or not. I know he suffered an injury in the Oregon game when we played them earlier in the year. And so his running mate, who is more of an inside offensive lineman, but he did step out and play the left tackle position, played very well. So I think that versatility is going to have him be someone who's going to be highly sought after. But at the offensive guard spot, we got Tyler Booker out of Bama, Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State, Tate Ratledge out of Georgia, Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia, Luke Handra out of Cincinnati, Jackson Slater. I don't remember what school he went to. Tyler Cooper out of Minnesota, Willie Lampkin out of North Carolina. And at the center position, we got Jake Majors out of Texas, Jared Wilson out of Georgia, Jonah Monheim out of USC, Seth McLaughlin out of Ohio State, Cooper Mays out of Tennessee, and Mose Duval out of Gonzaga. And so to get through all of those, I am very much looking forward to it. The combine coming up next week. I'm excited. This is like one of my favorite years. I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to this part right here. And so to go through my fast break, man, after sitting here thinking about it and going through and thinking about Pete Carroll's tenure as a head coach and potential with the team, I know he's older. The one thing I'm a little bit afraid of is Chip Kelly and how well he works. I hope that the mistakes and the way that players talk about him on podcasts made him realize the mistakes that he made and that he fixes them when it comes to his players. You can't run and treat NFL players like college players. It's just not going to work out for you. But I think Raider fans need patience. Wait and see who we draft. And then at that point, you can sit here and make a real educated decision on if you believe in Pete Carroll or if you don't. I think given his track record everywhere he's gone, he's gotten to the playoffs, gotten to championship games, and won a Super Bowl. And so now he's older now. That success has been a little bit I feel like it's like 10 years ago now is what it feels like. But I feel like Raider fans have patience, see what happens in the draft. We're at the 6th spot. We very well could try to trade up and get the quarterback of the future. I feel like what we do at the quarterback position, Jackson Dart is another one that I would like to see us go after if we're not able to get Shador or Cam. But I think in the end, have some patience. And so this next one, I hope this ain't true because I seen Gilbert Arenas reacted to it. I seen Shams reacted to it. There's an NBA executive who leaked that the Memphis Grizzlies are possibly seeking a trade over the summer for Ja Morant. And I don't like it. I understood the Luka Doncic issue, coming in out of shape, not playing defense. But when it comes to Ja, there's some stuff that he did that just bonehead stuff. But in the end, was it illegal? Was it the worst thing in the world that his play on the court? I can understand if he was just constantly hurt, never on the court. All right, at some point, he's still a young piece. I can get a lot back for him. So I'm gonna see what I can do. Luka, I think Joel Embiid, the Sixers should try to do something with Joel Embiid to do the same thing too, get up off that contract and have a brand new start and just build around Maxi. But I feel like this way that we're going, instead of trying to give people the money that they deserve and what they're owed, and just trading them. Now, if I'm a Bulls fan, if they are, I'm gonna see what I can get for them. Because at the end of the day, I do personally feel like that man is a cornerstone piece of a franchise, and Chicago would love him. I really hope this ain't true, but we'll see. Draymond Green was on TNT, and they were all kind of in a way talking negatively about the All Star Weekend. Draymond Green came out and said that it was poor, it was trash. He gave it a 0 F, and that the Rising Stars shouldn't have been there, which I can all agree with. But I feel like the elephant in the room, and the part that I don't like that you're not bringing up, is it got this bad because the players are not trying. Everybody shooting threes. They giving up oops. They not playing no defense. Like they're not even trying. And then KD coming out saying like, "Oh, players are not trying to get hurt." And it's like, all right, bro. How many players have come out and said they got hurt at an All Star game? And I feel like I could probably count on one hand if I could. This is just my guess. I don't know the specific numbers, but I feel like I can count on one hand the amount of players that got hurt at an All Star game. Like, man, stuff has happened where people got sick over the weekend, people got into accidents and whatnot. But just to straight up say, "Oh, I'm not trying to get hurt, so that's why I'm not playing hard," is just like total bullshit for me right now. I don't like it, and that's the part for me where I'm like, Draymond, you slightly tweaked, G, and it's cool, man. Like I feel like maybe and through his podcast after the fact, maybe he's now addressed that part. But on air, I feel like we have to put this onus and the blame on the players. Adam Silver's trying to do the best that he can. Now, I do feel like Adam Silver he's a little culpable in this situation as well because I don't feel like it would have got this bad under David Stern. I do feel like Adam Silver trying to be so player friendly. It's kind of like that gentle parent that is a little too gentle, but not realizing they raising a gangster. So now that kid just runs all over them. I feel like it's kind of getting to that point where the players are taking advantage of how soft Adam Silver is being on them instead of demanding greatness out of them. And that's the part for me where I just feel like he tweaking, man. It is what it is. And so I've been seeing this discourse. I seen Dr. Umar talk about the greatest power forward was Rasheed Wallace. I seen Kenny Smith talk about Rasheed Wallace. And I do feel like, and seeing the responses back to those statements makes me realize people don't understand how good Rasheed Wallace was. And mind you, my man was doing all of this in high top forces with the strap. My man had a game like a small forward, was guarding legit fives, played the four, inside, outside, take you off the dribble post game, could hit a three in a time period. Just think about Rasheed Wallace's skill set. You literally can translate him to so many different eras. There's some people that I feel like they transcend the era. Like Shaq, no matter what era you put him in, he's gonna be dominant. But that's just because Shaq is so dominant. But I feel like the style of play that Rasheed Wallace played in, where you need a stretch, he was a stretch four and a stretch five before there ever was the need for a stretch five. He could be a stretch five now. He can play in that era, and then he can dominate in a previous era. And I feel like because of what he went through and what he did on the court with the teams that he was a part of, all the technical fouls, suspensions, fines, and all of that, he's never going to get the credit that he deserves. But in the end, I do feel like from a talent standpoint, what he was able to do on the court, if you just putting him up against anybody, I really genuinely believe there's probably three power forwards that I would take if I'm just doing a pickup game and not taking their careers and everything else. If I just need one game to win, Charles Barkley, Kevin Garnett, and Tim Duncan are the only three power forwards I would take over Rasheed Wallace. Dirk was a liability on defense when it came to guarding other power forwards, but he was such an offensive weapon that it's hard to ignore what he was able to do in his career. But he was not the talent that Rasheed Wallace was. They came in at different eras, couple year difference, and so that's one of the reasons why we look at Dirk in a different way is what he was able to do as far as winning that finals against the Heat. But mano a mano, yeah, Dirk ain't doing nothing with Rasheed Wallace. Thank you all for watching. I do got to get up out of here. But like I said before at the beginning, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Subscribe if you're here on YouTube. If you're here on the He Say, She Say channel, go over to Juke Network, JUK Network on Facebook. Follow that page. Once I get to 100 followers, I'll be able to go live straight from there. If you're here on Twitch, hit that follow button as well. Help me become a Twitch affiliate. Going forward, man, if you're here on any of them, comment something. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know if you have any questions. Have some input to what I'm saying. Here. The fact that I'm doing a solo show, I'll interact with you if it deals with the show. I had some people last week. They was doing some wild shit, talking about how does it feel to be black. One dude wanted me to fuck his wife. It was wild. But thank you all for watching. I do got to get up out of here. Peace out.